All right, folks, welcome to the runningrestaurants.com podcast. We're bringing the tips, tools, and techniques you need to make your restaurant more profitable and successful. I'm your host, Jamie Whitegold. Got a great episode for you today. Got Joe Haubenhofer, owner of the Plaid Penguin, which is a marketing and branding agency that does a lot of work in the hospitality space. So, Joe, I love talking about marketing, so I'm looking forward to this. Your homepage, and I'm looking at it here, leads with winning brands don't happen by accident. Good stuff. Tell me a bit about the firm, how you guys got started, where you work, why marketing, why branding, why restaurants? What do you got?
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Also love marketing, love branding. So looking forward to the conversation. That moniker on our website really just speaks to, obviously branding, but branding is not a logo. It's not marketing. It's this all-encompassing living organism that should be done with, authenticity, should be done with intention, and, it grows over time and should be fed and nurtured, every day, every week, every month, every year. So just done with intentionality, I think is the main point there, is that you should constantly be looking at it and adjusting it and monitoring it.
Tell me about you guys. You've been around for how long? You physically are where? Do you work with companies all over the country, East Coast, West Coast? What do you got?
Yeah, we've been around 17 years. I started the company, from a spare bedroom into a garage, and then, had a series of offices, which was an exciting day, and slowly been growing the team over those years and our services and capabilities. About 7 years ago, we did kind of a self-audit on our own brand and what was true to us. And when we took that audit, we looked at all of our clients and the work that we were doing, and a big common denominator was in the realm of hospitality. And so we started to focus, inside of that space. So lots of restaurant groups, hospitality groups, bars, hotels, and then some ancillary food service, CPG firms, retail, etc. We're based in Charlotte, North Carolina, have a team of 25. We work across the country on, branding projects, as well as, all sorts of design projects and heavy communications, PR, social media, events, all that stuff.
Good. Yeah, I did. I saw kind of the litany of things you do, from branding strategy to marketing to getting involved with the menu development. I'm curious to poke you on that at some point here, but you throw out the word branding early on, and I think you already said it. And when people think of that, they think of a logo, and they think of that coffee company that has a logo that everybody will recognize if we just looked at it. And they think, oh, that's what branding is, right? That's all it is. It's just some cute logo, but it's so much more than that. So let's stay there for a second and kind of layer in, if you're talking to someone for the first time and you want to get the feel of what they do, the vibe, what's behind it. How do you talk to someone about that storytelling aspect, that branding piece?
Yeah. I mean, just level setting, you're right. Branding, when done correctly, is our definition of it is the intentional shaping of how people feel and or recognize your business. It's kind of that visceral gut feeling that they have. It's what they say, how they feel, what they remember. And your logo or your marketing doesn't necessarily need to be present in order for that to happen. So it's all the sensory stuff. It's your reputation. Kind of an everyday metaphor we use to level set with our clients when kind of going through this process is we'd say a logo is like the outfit on your first date. It's what they see, it's not what makes them stay, right? Marketing is more how you might ask somebody out on that second date, or to meet their parents or their friends. It's more your approach and what you say and how you present yourself. And because you act differently in a formal dinner party versus a beach vacation or meeting the parents or friends, hanging out with friends on a couch, you're going to act differently in that relationship. Branding, it's who you are. It's your personalities. It's your value. It's your vibe. it's your religious, political, human views. It's how you might respond to difficult situations, your idiosyncrasies, your mannerisms. It's the good stuff, the sum total, right? And like I said, like any human, it's a growing organism, so naturally evolves, but the core DNA remains the same. And so I think when going through the process, our methodology is to really extract from the stakeholders why they're in the business they're in and what is the concept and why is it special and unique. And we try to stray them away from words like we got into the restaurant business because we love serving people, or we have great customer experience, or we have high quality food, kind of empty adjectives. Really try to mine out from them what can make their brand, which again, if we're describing in totality, is so many things, all the way down to the culture that you're presenting to your fellow team members or recruits. And they're going to be representatives of that. So it can't just be, here's our logo and then a bunch of empty mission statement stuff. We really try to drill down and extract that, and then extrapolate that and use a verbal library and a visual library to help bolster up whatever it is that the good stuff we're mining.
Man, that was perfect. Perfect run through of the different sequences. I wrote it down. I take notes while you talk, by the way, so that's why I'm scribbling. But from logo to marketing to branding, really good walkthrough. And you already touched on where I was going to go next, the culture piece in what that conversation does for restaurants specifically. And I want you to talk about the two pieces of that culture and the brand, the outward facing one to customers and whatnot, vendors and so forth, but the inward facing one to your staff and onboarding folks with your brand and initiating them into the brand. That's a really important piece. And I know, I believe I read somewhere you guys help talk through that process as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're interchangeable. I mean, they should be the same. Well, on the training side of culture, there's nuances. There's obviously steps of service and, there's systems that need to be put in place, but it should have this overarching umbrella that speaks to why are we in the business that we're in. And it could be something as, simple as the type of nomenclature we use. We don't have customers, we have guests, or, we don't serve, one of our clients is a retro hamburger restaurant, and the word hamburger is nostalgic and retro, and so they don't serve burgers, they serve hamburgers, and so there's a lot of intention around all of that. But the process with us is, once we kind of figure out what the true brand North Star, we call it, is, then we start creating different pieces of languages that are used internally and externally, but they more or less are the same thing, that's just kind of presented a little bit differently. But yeah, they need to be tied together. And otherwise, because that's what we're saying, is brand is this total experience to how the parking lot looks, what the signage looks like, what the storefront looks like, how you're welcomed, the smell, the music, how fast are you greeted? Are you left with something? And so, if it looks a certain way, which we can get into this, because there really are two worlds. We live in a digital world and a real world. But you go on a website or you read a review and you see a photo, and again, going back to the metaphor of, like, let's say dating, you don't want those experiences to be disjointed. So, like, you go to like a dating site and you see somebody's picture from 10 years ago, and then you meet them in person. It's like, wait a minute, what?
Right.
I sold here. And so they need to connect. So the culture piece is so important, because if all of your outward marketing and branding is presenting you one way, but then you walk in the door and you don't get that certain type of feeling, then it's disjointed, and the brand itself is going to, suffer.
Yeah. I think that a lot of restaurants, not just restaurants, but a lot of companies miss that whole piece of branding in terms of giving you a vibe, giving you experience, giving the staff the communication to bring that feeling to the customer. And so it's a big opportunity. And when you do get it, you feel a difference. You're at a restaurant, you see the vibe, you get them. You talked about the music, the menu's a certain way, the staff is a certain way. You feel it, and I know there's a difference. So one thing that I wanted to go to, just because I was thinking about it as you were talking, was photography and restaurants. And again, some restaurants just don't get this right. And we went to a great place for the first time the other night, and the website photography was terrific. Really made the decision to go there, by the way. And so that was a big deal. A lot of folks don't do this well enough. So we get to the place, good vibe, and menu itself didn't meet my expectations. It was, one of them was in fact faded out, and of course I'm getting old. Where's my glasses? I'm struggling to see the menu, things like that. But anyway, great food, great vibe. They sort of missed the execution of the menu there, but anyway, I drifted there. Sorry. Photography, you guys help with it. Obviously, it's a big deal for restaurants. How do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a critical part to branding and marketing. But then, alignment between those two worlds. You can't hire the best photographer to jazz up your photography where it's so far removed from what it actually is. And the thing about the digital world is, I think we try to use a lot of different style of photography. So space design, lifestyle with people, team members, and food, not just a bunch of food and drink that's perfectly curated, right? And use less of that on your website and use less of that in your social channels, which in our opinion, social media is one of the most disruptive things that we've had in our world since the internet. And what I mean by that is it's a device that is influencing, and shaping the way we elect world leaders, and and dividing countries or bringing groups together. And so what other mechanism is that powerful to say that it can't do that for your business? So I'd say that, and with the photography, is you don't want a perfectly manicured, landscaped, springtime colonial home all the time. It's okay to get behind the scenes and do more raw footage in the form of short format, reels on your phone. People tend to consume that, and it's more authentic. Not to say that you should just throw up your phone and move it all around, but we're not judging it based on that. It gives them a more authentic and clear look into what they might expect. So to wrap up the photography, it's important. You should refresh on a consistent basis, but look at your blend. Don't just do all food shots. Just really try to capture the overall vibe of the brand and of the experience.
Yeah, I like the two things you finish with there. Refresh it periodically, have it be a blend of stuff. But the aspect that you said was really good about being authentic. Some folks get nervous to pull out the phone, which is a movie studio, and you're absolutely right. You can go behind the scenes very quickly in the kitchen with your phone, and your staff, they're better at it than me. I know they're probably better at it than you as the owner, how to create content that is both quick and fun. How do you let folks off what's the word I'm looking for, off the handle, and make sure they stay within brand guidelines when anybody in the restaurant could all of a sudden create content ad hoc? How do you get
this is what's really shifted over the word brand guidelines. I mean, we really like to stay away from that word, again, with the brand being a growing organism, right? Like, it needs to have some do's and don'ts, just like everyday service does. But everything doesn't need to be, again, perfectly manicured based on these guidelines or guardrails. And that's where social media, I think, brings it just on a human level. Like, people aren't judging you because your lighting's not perfect. They want to see, and this is really just true with video content, not so much photography. And this is why I'm saying that our blend of photography, static photography versus video is probably the 80-20 rule, if not sometimes 90-10. So we might be posting one really nice photo of the space, of a drink, of a person that we had from some photo shoot. And you can do this periodically, twice a year, find, some local photographer to do it, because food and drink and space, if it's when not lit right, it can look bad. But the video stuff, you have a lot longer rope when it comes to the brand guidelines. And so that's all I'm trying to say is it can just be more organic. And you just need to, more is more, and more is better than trying to get that perfect reel and spending a bunch of time. And you hit the nail on the head. Like, we encourage our clients, even the ones that we're on a monthly, daily, support with, where we're curating content, planning out the schedule, doing stewardship for them. We try to tap, a mixologist or a server or a host or somebody that's generally younger. And, we try to get them excited and let the ownership group know, or the general manager know that, hey, that, they can get us really good content. We can chop it up. So even if we're not in the picture, yes, identify somebody that skews younger, that's enthusiastic, and give them a little leeway, and have them interact, with your clientele on Instagram.
That was perfect, man. Yeah, I appreciate you going through how you guys think about it, because I'm sure restaurants ask the same questions. What should we post more of? What should we post less of? What's not working? So appreciate your insights there. Talk about branding as it relates to premium pricing. We all want to charge more, and price is different than value, which is, an equation that branding comes into play in terms of value. It's not just a competitive price, $6 burger, $7 burger. I paid $18 for a burger the other day. What's going on? How do you use branding and storytelling to that's not a word, to make folks pay more money for stuff? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that's part of it. I mean, there's a strong brand definitely elevates perceived value. So let's say it's something about your mission, or sourcing a certain type of food, or supporting farms or whatever. So there's some of that, the quality aspect that with a little bit more detail, but that's going to cap out, using the hamburger as an analogy, like you only can charge so much for certain things. I think where we see the biggest return is, just the lifetime value of a potential guest, right? Like, if you can get them coming back 2-3 times a month versus once every 3 months, it starts to, that's where you're going to make the top line sales, and ultimately become more profitable, assuming all your other metrics are in line with your COGS, right? So I think we look at it less as, it's not for every brand, like a QSR brand versus a neighborhood restaurant, or a bar versus fine dining. Obviously there's nuances to each one of those, and certain, talk about menu engineering, you mentioned here a second ago, there's a whole science around size of font, and do we put dollar signs? Do we have, odd numbers versus even numbers? Are we trying to load up on tapas and appetizers on the front? So there's a lot to unpack there, but generally speaking, the details matter. And when you pay attention to all of these details, throughout the guest experience, you're just going to get more from them. You're going to get them to order more. They're going to come back more. So more is more.
Go to, do me a favor. Let's go back to menus for a second. And I know, and again, I'm looking at my notes from the website, you reference food and beverage menu development. When you talk about that, do you talk about the physical aspect, some of the things you just referenced about placements of aspects on the menu, or the actual menu itself? Do you contribute thoughts to, hey, you guys doing this thing should have these sorts of ideas on your menu? Maybe it's a combination. What do you think?
Yeah, combination. I would say half the time we are, seeing a brand all the way through. So after we create a brand, it's, it's coasters to uniforms to what goes on the wall, the posters, the emails, the van wraps, the menu design, right? And so we're just physically laying out a menu. They supply us with the menu, and then we're laying it out, so that overlaying the brand. But then we're also adding a little value when it comes to highlighting certain dishes or certain combinations. Your eye goes up to the right. Most people want to start left, and that's apps and salads and soups, and then it goes into some sort of breakdown of the entrees. Do you have separate menus for desserts? Do you have separate menus for drinks? So we kind of go through all of that. So there's a little consulting and advisory. The other half of the time we do get into, all right, well, we have a rough idea what our concept is. We haven't hired our chef. They are clearly going to want to have input. Once the chef comes aboard and they have an idea, then we do, based on kind of their direct competitors, likely in kind of an area, we will provide guidance. There's been some cases, more so in the QSR world, where we have worked with chefs, because ingredient cross utilization is key, costing, all of that stuff. So they give us some sort of parameters, but then we're coming in and really helping, saying we should have 5 menu items in this section, 3 in this, 5 in this. It should be a blend of these types of ingredients. And then we've gone as far as to help name them, to even further accentuate the brand as well.
Good. That's fun. By the way, I'm sure you guys enjoy digging in like that with the operators, I would imagine. So let's go to a question that a lot of folks would ask. Okay. I'm going to run a postcard campaign. It's going to cost X. I'm going to get Y. But and maybe you guys even touch that realm. But I'm going to do a branding campaign, and it's going to do X and it's going to do Y. And I know it's ephemeral when we talk about marketing branding, and you guys even say so on your site, right? It is this thing. But someone say, what's going to be my return when I work with you guys, Joe? And I'm not looking for a specific answer, but how do you talk about ROI when you talk about marketing and branding? What do you think?
Yeah, the inevitable question. It's a reasonable question. I think I'll try not to go all over the place here, but branding, again, it should not be looked at as a campaign. Branding is this thing that you invest in one time. That's the foundation of your house. And so that should really be amortized out over over the life of the business, or however long you keep that brand. Specific marketing initiatives, whether it's traditional marketing, like you're saying, with a postcard or digital, advertising, or all this stuff through the own channels, which is not advertising. The own channels are things that you control, that you're sending out a message to the, to your audiences, such your website, your social media, email marketing. Those things, if we talk about blends, we're heavily concentrated, especially with restaurants, on you should be spending 80 to 85% of your resources on focusing on those channels. These things are cheap and you can control them. Mm-hmm. Another 15% should be made up of the paid channels, which is what advertising is. So that's postcards, that's it could be digital ads, it could be all sorts of things, but anything that you put extra dollars into your marketing. And then the last category is what we call the earned, which is more PR and community awareness. So this is sponsoring the local T-ball team, or this is, trying to do something in the community that gets you, some notice and some praise for lifting everybody up. And so when we talk about ROI, it's, I think the types of clients that we're working with are not the ones that call us and say, we need butts in seats and tell me exactly what we're going to spend this and tell me exactly what I'm going to get. The right. Clients that we're optimized, think of us as like, all right, you're at a cabin on a lake and it's the sun, is just about to break, but you started a bonfire. It's like 7:00 at night. And we're coming in with, a curated marshmallow s'mores kit, and we, turn up the fire a little bit, and we get the sun, during golden hour. We're the supercharger. We're the accelerant. Mm-hmm. And so, the organizations already need to be doing things well. We're just helping fine tune things and get the details. And so So the ROI, it's truly a partnership with us. We grow with our clients. And so the clients that just want to do more of a traditional advertising, like, hey, I want you to send out X amount of emails. I want you to send X amount of postcards. We're not really engaging with them. But if we were to do a specific activity like a postcard, which those types of things work in certain environments, we would, we've done those, and there's a couple tricks that we have. So like, let's say, those coupon packs, you're opening up a new hamburger place and outside of your local city, and you want to drive attention. We would suggest that we create a offer that has virtually no strings attached and something that would make somebody take an action. And that means by coming in. So not just giving away a free fry or a 10, 15, 20% off. It would be, no string, beautiful picture of a hamburger. Hey, we're new to the neighborhood. Here's who we are. Come in, give us this card. We're going to give you a free hamburger. That's it. And so so that cost me, call it 50 cents to, per household that I put that in, versus me spending $20 targeting a potential guest on a Facebook ad. And I would much rather have that, right? So just, and the cost to me to make my hamburger is $3, so you just sink that in to a marketing cost versus a COG cost.
Yeah. Good stuff there. And what I really liked, going back to the own channels versus paid channels. And I was going to ask you a question that was like, hey, is there anything that restaurants used to do like all the time? And when I say that, the first thing comes to mind is Glossy City magazine. Like, you used to always have to advertise in the Glossy City magazine. Do you have to do that anymore? Is there it's changed so much. Anything come to mind?
Totally. It kind of depends on the city that you're in. I mean, the size of the community. I think that 18-hour cities, and even 12-hour cities, I think supporting your local chamber or whatever kind of commerce group that you have is always a good thing. I mean, they've diversified their offerings to not just be print and to be more digital, and they send out an email or they'll loop you in on their Instagram. So depending on the spend there, but it usually can be less than a couple $1,000s a year. I think, again, if you're especially in a touristy town, I think that stuff can work. But we've been moving. I mean, the vast majority of our clients, like I said, it's more on their own channels. And again, social is, of that 85%, like 50 to 60% of our efforts are spent on social media. And it's not just Instagram. I mentioned that. Sometimes it can be TikTok, it's Facebook. There's different audiences, but more is more content there. And it doesn't need to be perfect. And that's where we're seeing the biggest return.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that. Let's curious on a couple things on your side. Let's go away for it. Looking for some business thoughts, some personal advice thoughts. You've run a business for 17 plus years now. What would you say is one of the best pieces of advice you've received?
Oh, that's a good one. Something along the lines of, I forgot, I don't know who said it, but discipline is the strongest form of self-love, kind of that delayed gratification, ignoring something you want now for something better later. The passion over the paycheck. How I got into this business, it was nothing to do with my college degree. I didn't know what I wanted to do in college or post-college. But once I kind of took a beat, I figured out I love food, I love design, I love storytelling, I love connectivity. And so I just went, while all my other friends are, going off on very particular, career paths, I was just like, I'm going to do this and figure it out. And so part of it is believing in yourself, and that the line of work can really be fun if you just follow that itch or that gut feeling.
Now I have to ask as a follow-up, I'm curious what you did go to college for. What is it? Is it something very, very different? What do you got?
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast, my feelings on higher education. But that's just what you did after high school, right? Like, okay, I guess I got to go to college. Okay, where do I go to college? Okay. and what kind of degree do I need to get? It was in management information systems, and this was back at the infancy of the internet. So it was just kind of tech and it was cool. But I mean, it was all stuff that, my 10-year-old probably learns, in the first day of class.
That's
so
right.
after that, I got a job in management information systems, which was merely a startup internet company. Where I was there for 3 years and I learned a ton about the business world, just because when I started there were 6 people. When I left, there was 130. So
wow.
I saw a lot of growth, but it just wasn't it for me.
Yeah. Well, it seems like we're around the same time span, and there was that growth in internet technology companies where things just went from 6 to 130 so quick. These startups raising money, it was just a heady time. Of course, there was the .com burst and bubble, so I think we probably both went through that. Talk about a book that you're reading now, or something that you recommend to colleagues, friends, so forth. What do you think?
Yeah, I would. So I'm more of I'm a podcast guy. For sure. I mean, a book I recently read, not surprising, would be Unreasonable Hospitality. But some of my favorite podcasts: Jefferson Fisher, Chris Voss. They're like communication experts. Chris Voss is an old FBI negotiator.
Yeah, Voss. Don't Split the Difference. That guy. Yeah. He's good.
He's awesome. Jefferson Fisher's kind of his protege. He's a lawyer. He does these, and this is a perfect example of Instagram. Like now he's blowing up, but he started these like videos where he gave he's a trial lawyer, but he gave like 3 tips on, what to say when you're walking in a difficult conversation, or, what to say when you're dealing with somebody that is narcissistic. And he gives 3 points, and he's done tons of videos, and he's just now blown up. He's got a couple books, podcasts. I love Dave Ramsey too. His kind of entrepreneurship. So that's where the work and the play for me is. You can see, like, I love reading or listening to people that are doing stuff differently in my world.
I'll echo the Voss excellent book on negotiating strategies and things like that, and of course Ramsey, anything around financial management has got great tips. Are any trends you see? Well, the kind of last question I'll ask: any trends you see in the restaurant industry? Could be what you guys do, could be outside of what you guys do, but in the next 2-3 years coming down the road, any thoughts?
Yeah, let's see. I'd say a couple things come to mind. One is, I think no matter the restaurant, but maybe more so inside of the QSR world, I think even as technology emerges there, I think getting back to meeting people where they're at, and this idea of the root of hospitality, again, a lot of what Will says in that book. I think simplification of systems and of offerings should be, and I hope it is, a trend. I mean, that's when we talk about menu consulting, everybody they have their favorite dish, or that owner tasted this, or that chef loved this. And it's just like, strip it back, like just do the things that you can do and perform exceptionally well time and time again. So simplicity, I would say, would be a theme. And then, I know I said with QSRs and technology, I do feel like leveraging technology and embracing. So, I mean, just an example, like for restaurateurs, we talk about brand, the digital realm that we live in. Online reviews is a real thing, on Yelp or on Google or on OpenTable. You can go into one of these learning language modules. There's a couple different add-ons that you can get for free. You can have it go and scrub all of your reviews and then put it in a data-driven table that says, okay, give me all the common denominators, give me all of our 5-star, give me our 1-star, and give me the adjectives that are the common denominators associated with those. So you can see, like, are people saying that my restaurant's too dark, or my service wasn't good, or it's too salty, or whatever it is? And so leveraging technology, and then things like, the Toast, platform, like tapping into all that has to offer, not just the online ordering stuff, but really tapping into their integrations and their marketing modules. You can set up like your email marketing, for instance, like you can set up automated responses or automated emails that trigger based on, how much they spend or when they haven't come back, and, like a lapsed guest. And I think that more and more, restaurants, and this directly relates to a lot of stuff that we do, and you can automate it yourself.
Yeah. I love the fact that tech is very approachable now and affordable. The things that you can do now for, I'm gonna just make up some dollars, but for a couple $100 here or there, used to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to do, but you can integrate so much, and it's giving restaurants a real fighting chance because margins are shrinking and it's getting so competitive. But now you can right size your inventory and your staffing and your pricing and your execution. So many opportunities there inside of tech and AI to ramp up the business. So appreciate those thoughts. Anything we didn't hit on? Any parting thoughts? Hit them with the website, your socials, etc. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, find your North Star and constantly monitor and audit everything going on. You have to pay attention to the image, that's out there in the digital world and inside your four walls. And details matters, and what you do from a top level, showing how much you care about your team, or you care about the guests, or you care about the trash in the parking lot, goes a long way. And simplify. Once you simplify things, your menu, for instance, it makes all of that stuff that much easier to achieve, and really then to focus on the important stuff, which ultimately is your guests. The guests are the ones that, ultimately determine your success. You can find us in terms of finding us our website, the Plaid Penguin. That's one reason why we chose that name. You type it in, it gets pretty good SEO. And same on all the social channels, just hashtag Plaid Penguin on whatever platform.
Yeah, it's funny. I love the name, and I was going to ask you about that. And there was a lot of open topics we didn't hit on, so maybe we'll bring you back 6 months down the road, and we'll talk about some of the things we didn't get to today. But folks, Joe Haubenhofer from the Plaid Penguin, you can find them on the web at theplaidpenguin.com, just like you'd think it's spelled, theplaidpenguin.com, for more great restaurant marketing, service people, tech tips, and more. Stay tuned to us here at runningrestaurants.com. In the meantime, if you could do a big favor, just like the episode wherever you are, rate it, review it. Share it with folks. That helps us out and is very much appreciated. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.